Alright, I got absolutely cooked. And disclaimer, I don't normally dress like this. I'm just going to a Christmas party right now, so I had to dress festive, or maybe I do dress like this. Seriously though, I've been working on this video for so long, I just don't have as much time to edit as I'd like. And as soon as I wanted to do the upload, I saw that Gameranx already did their own version of this video about video game clones. So hopefully you like it just as much as theirs, and if you like it a bit more, that wouldn't hurt my feelings either. But they also named some of the games that I did as well, so maybe we both have good taste. Anyways, there's always more gaming content on the way. Hopefully you enjoy. Peace out, everybody. What's up, everybody? Here's a pseudo sequel to the video that I made last month called Video Game Sequels That Were Worse But Better. Alright, I don't know what a pseudo sequel is, so I don't even know why I said it. Long story short, I made a video last month that compared video game sequels that got worse reviews critically, but I found them more fun to play, and thankfully a lot of people agreed with me on that. And in this video, I'm actually going to tackle video games that are considered copycats, but also games that I actually found to be more fun than the actual game that they were inspired from. And when I say copycat, I really mean games that have been inspired by different franchises or genres. I'm not talking about blatant copycats that, we've been seeing a lot lately. There's things like Horizon Zero Dawn or all these type of Breath of the Wild copycats that we see. I'm just going to focus on games that actually have some heart to them, but they're inspired by games of others. So without further ado, let's get into it. And the first two franchises I want to look at are the Dark Souls games and the Nioh games. Now I'm going to tell you right now, the Dark Souls games are absolutely revolutionary. I've loved every single one of them, just like I'm sure many of you have as well. And they've spawned more copycats than you can count. And for most of the cases, they absolutely destroy any games that they inspire. There's always something that's missing that never makes them feel special or unique. But that's when the Nioh series comes in. If you're not familiar with Nioh, Nioh is essentially Team Ninja's take on the Souls-like genre. And Team Ninja is best known for creating games like Ninja Gaiden in the past, or Dead or Alive, the fighting game. And the way that Team Ninja makes their Souls-like unique is pulling out inspiration from all the action-packed combat from both of those beloved franchises. Now I have to preface this right off the bat. I am a huge From Software and Dark Souls stan. I'm going to love every single one of their games. But before Elden Ring dropped, I actually went through the old games like Bloodborne, Demon Souls, all the way through Dark Souls 3. And even though they were still incredible and I had a great time playing them, they never really hit the highs that I got when I played them for the first time. And I know you can say that for pretty much any video game franchise, but let me tell you one thing. When I went back and played Nioh 1 and Nioh 2 earlier this year, I actually had just as much fun as I did the first time around, if not more fun in some situations. I just think the mechanics that Nioh introduced just suit the game so well. Even the replayability of their franchises are incredible. Redoing missions, I used different weapons, had different drops, so my builds are always way different. And even though Dark Souls did get a lot better with builds as the games went on, I still don't think they match the level of freedom that you have in Nioh. In fact, you can create the most OP build in Nioh and the developers always just leave it in the game, because if the players are smart enough to figure it out, they give that freedom to the player, and I always did appreciate that. The other thing, because it's a Team Ninja game, you just know that the combat is going to be amazing, and they really hit it out of the park here. All the weapons have a distinct feel to them, and they have so many different combo routes and different stances. Then you pair them up with all the magic and things that you can get, and you feel like you're actually playing a Ninja Gaiden game in the Dark Souls world. And to me, that's a very, very special experience. And I know people that play Nioh will understand this, but they just killed it with the rhythm of that game. Once everything is flowing and you have some upgrades where you can do perfect timings on combos or get your charges back, you're having a really fluid dance with all the enemies and the bosses in the game. And yes, they are cheap, and that's what you're going to get in Team Ninja games, but you never feel like they're too cheap in this way that you can't overcome it. And I think that's the mark of a great action RPG. And one thing I have to give Nioh bonus points for, and this is just a me personal thing, as I've gotten older and I have different responsibilities with my family and whatnot, I actually prefer the level-based system in Nioh as opposed to an open world experience these days. And I just like the fact that you can pick a level and it'll be done in 10, 20, 30 minutes, and you can go along on your way. And for us with significant others or spouses, sometimes they'll tell you that they're going to be ready in 10 or 20 minutes, and they actually mean 30. That's just enough time to squeeze in a level in Nioh, but not even a fraction of the time needed to make a dent in Dark Souls. So that type of stuff, I know it's personal, but I really appreciate it. Anyways, I love both franchises, but let me know what you think. And now I want to shift focus to some kart racing games, and this might be my most controversial, aka stupidest pick yet. But I want to compare a game to the undisputed king of Mario Kart. And honestly, this is a hard one to overcome because Mario Kart is just loved by everyone. Kids, adults, casual gamers, hardcore gamers. The only thing we really hate about this genre is just getting your ass clapped in first place when the rubber band effect really kicks in and everyone throws their weapons at you. Now, I could have gone many ways with this. Back in the day, people used to think Diddy Kong Racing was a lot better, Crash Team Racing was better. But I want to focus more on a modern game. I actually think Mario's rival Sonic, with Sonic All-Star Racing Transform, had the better kart racing experience. I just knew the moment I played this game how much I loved it. It's so over the top, it's so nostalgic, and most of all, it's so fast. And I feel the speed is what's really been missing from so many Mario Kart games over the year. I know lately now that Mario Kart games have 200cc, so they really did pick up in the speed factor. But there's just a sense of overall speed, especially the stages around you, where it just fits so well in the Sonic racing game. On top of that, the fan service in these games is second to none. Normally, Nintendo actually kills it in this department, but the amount of love that are put into these classic Sega characters or stages, the amount of love that goes into their carts or their animations, they really hit it out of the park with this one, and it just takes you back to the good old days where games made no sense and we loved them for every second of it. And it should come to no surprise because back in the day, Sega had a headlock on arcade racing games, especially when you'd go to the arcade and play some of the stuff that they had. They just killed it, and I'm glad that they made this game, and it really took us back to those days. And I still think they hold up amazing today. And you can find this game for cheap, no doubt about it. Pick it up, download it, and just have a blast. And it's just a good alternative to give your kids to play outside of Mario Kart all the time. You know, switch up their palette a bit and then let them show what real speed looks like. So if you haven't checked out this game, I highly recommend you do. Whether you're young or old, there's something in it for you. Us old heads, this is literally a love letter to all the things that we loved growing up. And I definitely think it has some fun mechanics that the new generation will like as well. So let me know what you think. I'm not saying it's going to replace Mario Kart in your hearts, but believe me, there's definitely some fun to be had. So these days, it ain't much of a debate when you compare games like Grand Theft Auto to the Saints Row series. Grand Theft Auto is arguably the biggest franchise out there in the world right now. And games like GTA 5, it doesn't matter how old they are, they're still raking in the money. But there was a time where the actual most fun open world experience wasn't in Grand Theft Auto 3, San Andreas, or Grand Theft Auto 4. It actually came from Saints Row 3. Now let me tell you what that game did perfectly. They knew right off the bat it would just be a losing battle to go against a juggernaut franchise like Grand Theft Auto and just try to copy them and do the same types of storytelling or same types of, jokes that they do. Because that's what we really always see from these games that are copycats or inspiration. They try to be too similar to the games that, they're inspired from. But what Saints Row does perfectly was, instead of making it into a serious game like Grand Theft Auto, they just made an over-the-top Michael Bay version of an open-world game, and it was perfect. And because you have a game that doesn't take itself very seriously, you're able to add in different features that are not even realistic, like sci-fi missions or missions that are inside of video games. Really things that push the fourth wall boundaries and let people know that, hey, you're playing a video game. Even though you have control and you can do all these different things, at the end of the day, you're playing a video game. And this was a gamey game, and I mean that in the best way possible. And I know some people remember, but you can actually use a certain adult toy as like a melee weapon in this game. And I know we were young and dumb and we thought it was the funniest thing in the world, but my buddies used to settle all their debates online by pulling that weapon out and just dueling it out in Saints Row. And if you remember that time, it was one of the funniest things out there. But it didn't stop there. What really set it over the top was the exact same thing that I said Resident Evil 5 did for that franchise. The co-op aspect was incredible, and it just made so many memories, so many laughs. I remember on the Xbox Live party chat of all the stupid things that you're doing, but the gameplay still worked so well, and it was one of the true games where co-op didn't take away from the experience, it just added to it. And at that time, most GTA games didn't have co-op going for them, so this was a big boon for the Saints Row franchise. And finally, just a bonus point, because this game didn't take itself seriously or it just had all these silly over-the-top jokes, it didn't mean that there weren't epic moments. This game was chock full of great missions and some very atmospheric missions, and I know a lot of people remember this one, but there's a mission where you take over a hotel party on the top floor of like a penthouse, and they're just playing Kanye West Power in the background. It's just such a cool, cheesy scene, but it works so well for the game, and it's one of my favorite missions in any open world game. So yeah, it may not have taken itself seriously at all times, but it knew when it had to, and it definitely delivered. Let me know what you think about GTA versus Saints Row 3. Now, when it comes to one of my favorite genres, fighting games, I think it's safe to say that the most influential game, or the game that, you know, developers took the most inspiration or try to be a copycat for, was Mortal Kombat. And I think so many people remember this. In the 90s, every single developer seemed to try to make their own Mortal Kombat clone to just try to capture what it had. And believe me, there were some terrible games that tried to copy. And that one franchise that I think took the ball and ran with it the best was the Killer Instinct franchise. And I know a lot of people remember back that Killer Instinct tried to, you know, have their own types of fatalities, and it never really worked to the same degree that Mortal Kombat's did. But where it did succeed was just the gameplay, and the action was so much better and fast-paced in my opinion. And we all remember things like big combos and just walking down the street and going combo breaker to your buddies, and it's just such a 90s experience. But the games also got better with time. Even when Mortal Kombat was finding itself and just going through the disasters of like Mortal Kombat 4 and things like that, the N64 version of Killer Instinct was more fun than those games that were coming out. And even in the modern context, I loved Mortal Kombat 9 and 10. I thought they really hit it out of the park with those two games. But believe it or not, I still had more fun with that Xbox version of Killer Instinct, so the latest version of Killer Instinct. And even to this day, that game still plays amazing. The combat system, everything just aged so well. The online play is incredible, and that's very rare for a game from that generation. And now Mortal Kombat's kind of stumbling again with some of the latest games, especially MK1. I know it's not in the best spot, but I definitely think Killer Instinct needs a bit more love. I wish we can get sequels to these games, because I do think there's some fanfare for it. But until then, we got to stick with the Mortal Kombat games, and hopefully they find their footing again. But let's hope Killer Instinct ain't too far off in the horizon. And then the final two games are kind of like picking your two favorite kids and making them fight each other. We all love both of these franchises, and you know what? They are created by the same person, so you know they're going to have some similarities. But what I'm talking about is Devil May Cry and Bayonetta. Now, I remember when Bayonetta first got released, there were tons of people back on the old GameFAQs websites that were just saying, hey, this is just another Devil May Cry clone. It copies the level design. The main protagonist is like so over the top, just like Dante was. She even has guns and uses them in the same way that Dante has. The bonus stages are so similar. There are so many types of comments like that. But do you know what? I will say till the end of time, even though I love the Devil May Cry series, Bayonetta 1 and Bayonetta 2 are better than every Devil May Cry game not named Devil May Cry 5. In a way, Bayonetta is more like taking the epic over-the-top stuff from a game like God of War, but then having the Devil May Cry formula. And to me, that's such a special game. And even though I do think that Devil May Cry 3 was an amazing game, I still preferred games like Ninja Gaiden over it, even though I really loved them both. But Bayonetta just had this unique flair to it that I would set it aside from Ninja Gaiden games as well. And Bayonetta 2, in my opinion, is a top 3 action game of all time. And I can't believe that that was on the Wii U. I'm surprised that console didn't explode trying to play that game. But thankfully, after Devil May Cry 5 got released, that franchise is back, and it's back in a big way. And I put that right up there with Bayonetta 2, and I think action game fans are loving every second of it. I know Bayonetta 3 came out. I don't think it's as good as Devil May Cry 5. I don't think many of us do. But it still has a very special place in our hearts, and hopefully it gets put on some more powerful consoles, because I do think that's what's really holding back some of the over-the-top moments that are in that game now. But when it comes to copycat games or inspirational games that took the ball and ran with it, I can't think of a better example than Bayonetta and Bayonetta 2. Love that franchise, and I just hope it gets better as we age. So that's the list. Let me know what you think. And honestly, if you have to disagree with all of these, I love to hear those as well. Some of the best conversations I have with people are just on things that we disagree with. But make sure y'all are nice to each other in the comment section. Sometimes y'all rip on each other too much. Remember, we're just discussing some of our favorite hobbies and games, okay? Nothing too serious. I'll catch y'all on the next one, and peace out, everybody.